Yo, 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 yo.
No!
This is Murder Moose. I am Rod.
Hey, Rod!
And my buddy. Hi, Josh!
What's up? How's it going today, Rod? Hey, Rod! It's fucking Murder Moose time! Wow!
Josh, I think you might have had too much sugar tonight.
No,
or either that or
I just napped.
The wife button nap as made you like a rambunctious 6-year-old.
Hey, man, it's the best pillow ever.
I mean, booty is a good pillow. I'm not going to fight you on that. And you're a good pillow. Josh, we are part of the Slash and Cast podcast network.
What?
But
seriously?
What, dude? We got some sweet fucking podcasts that are joining the gigs here, so that's pretty dope.
Yeah, buddy.
But how you doing, my dude? Besides sleeping on your wife's booty, are you doing good?
Hell yeah, man. How are you doing, Rod?
Man, it's Tuesday and I'm already done for the week. I mean, not like I still have to go to work the next 2 days, but I'm already done for the week mentally. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like,
that's I think my wife too. Actually, she today was talking about something. She's like, yeah, that's in 2 days, and I was like, what? No, that's on Sunday, isn't it? And she's like, yeah, in 2 days. I was like, it's Tuesday. She's like, oh.
it's so I've talked about it here, but I work 4 days, 5 days, 4 days, 5 days, 4 days, 5 days. And so it's always that like when I have 2 days left after it where I start going, it's like either Wednesday or Tuesday. So today is Tuesday and I only work till Thursday. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this shit. Yeah, it's been a thing, man. Work's been a pain. I bet I got to go back to the office tomorrow. I can't not suck at Sekiro on my stream.
Hey,
so
whatever.
Been lots of
just remember to chop the dicks, and
I'm trying to.
That's all you have to remember to do, man. And
I'm
trying. You'll do so much better. But I don't know.
I'm trying to chop those dicks, Josh. It's like the strategy in life where I go meditate, and I go, must chop the dicks, and I just picture you, and a floating like vision of Josh appears before me, where it's like, young Padawan,
Hey,
you must chop the dicks
if
if you wish to succeed. You are the sensei of dick chopping.
Yep.
I don't know what that such a thing. I didn't know such a thing existed before this podcast. But Josh has become the sensei of dick chopping.
Hey, if I'm going to be a sensei of anything, I'm glad it's that.
Yeah.
I guess.
There's much worse things you could be the sensei of, right?
I guess. Wax on. Wax on.
Dick on, dick off, I think is what you're really referring to. Because it's on, and then you chop it off, and then it's off. So, yep. Yep, Josh. Yep.
Hey, we were going to do something... Wait, I think we talked about it in the last one. At the end, you're like, oh, we might not do it. And we ended up not doing it. And
because I don't want to do something and talk about something on here if one or both of us is going to shit all over it. And it's just it's not necessary. We have enough options and everything that we can go. And it's not fair to I mean, maybe it is fair, but, I watched the thing and I had fun with it, but as a filmmaker, Josh didn't. There were problems with it in his head, and that's fine. If Josh, I asked him if he didn't want to do it, and he gave me iffy Britney Spears, and so I was like, oh, I guess we can't do it, and so we picked another dope movie.
No, you
that
asked
Josh,
if I was going to shit all over it, and I was like, no.
I feel like that movie would have been. The problem was it wasn't like the slasherette party that was just infuriating. That movie wasn't infuriating. It was
it had a lot of the same issues though. A lot. Honestly, slasherette was easier for me to get through than that one. 100%. I hated slasherette, but I could get through it because it had boobs at least. And there was one or two characters that I at least liked in that one. This one, there was one, and everyone else could have died, and they pretty much did. I don't know. We're talking about it anyways.
I
Look at that.
yeah, I know we're not gonna get into it too much. I laughed during this one
Dude,
though. Like
yes, for sure.
I had fun with it, which was I. Again, it's that thing we talk about. It making movies is hard, and the guys who made the people that made this movie, there were a lot of bad actors, but
Yes.
like you could tell they enjoyed it, and that they were like there was stuff, and there was one character, like you said, that the actor had a lot of charisma, and
For sure.
so, but yeah,
And all the good lines, but everyone
Yep.
else or everything else. I don't know. Like for me, when it comes to filmmaking in general, if the lighting is bad, the whole movie is bad. And there was just harsh shadows the entire time that I was just like, and then the camera was just kind of thrown at the characters. And I've seen that done so many times, like I said before, in like the 48-hour film challenge setting with a whole bunch of other like very beginner filmmakers and stuff. But I, again, like with all that said, I want to commend people that go out and make full-length features, because I still haven't done that shit, and like that is got to be super hard to get that many people, the funding and all that stuff down and get a whole thing. So like I commend them for getting a whole fucking movie done, but with those huge issues. And then I added you on Instagram with like there was no composition whatsoever in any shot. And I'm like, I look for that stuff because it's the art of filmmaking to me. And when it's just like, hey, it's like a weekend project film almost. And it's like, I don't have fun watching those ones because there's no attention to the details. And the details are what make me love movies.
Yeah, I think that there was some other like I liked a couple more characters than you did, but like that, and the other thing that I thought was pretty okay was the score was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But yeah, it was. I commend them. Like I don't know what the stuff. We're not mentioning names or anything, but like the stuff that you're pointing out doesn't affect me as much because I'm not a filmmaker. So it's okay. That like. It's something that you can point out and that's fine, and we have something dope to talk about, which does have its own problems, by the way, but
I want to hear the problems of this one, because like in one night going from like to this, I was like fuck yes, because I was stoked to see it, and just the
one thing that I'll tell you already, like it's a pretty thing I've mentioned before. This has CGI gore blood effects that I hate. I hate CGI blood and gore. And this
what
movie
I gotta commend about the other movie used real squibs in the...
that first kill where she slits her throat was one of the gnarliest throat slashes I've ever seen in a movie.
Really
I was
good.
like,
but like
that was like
when the old lady got shot in the back, those were real squibs. I was like,
yeah,
holy shit! Like this is, it had some like redeemable qualities to the movie for sure. But then, of course, we go from that to a Shudder movie because we're obsessed with Shudder movies.
Dude, it's this movie. I watched it like a while back because Dead in Santa Carla had one of the characters from the movie on it, who's a stunt worker, but he played the devil character.
Oh, sick.
So he's done that, and I told you he was he played the sackhead in the second Strangers movie,
Nice.
the Pray at Night. So it's the same actor who actually follows me on Twitter. I'm so cool. I mean, not really, but but yeah. So we're talking about the 2019 movie Haunt, which it's another Shudder exclusive at this point. I don't know what's it called. Is you call it that as Shudder exclusive?
Well, not anymore because it's not even on Shudder anymore, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is.
That's where I watched it. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, that's where I watched it too. What am I talking about? Frick, I'm an idiot.
It's funny. So this movie, the best comparison in movies that I have to say that I can compare this to is Hell House. Have you seen Hell House?
No. I was going to say that it reminded me a lot of the first Escape Room as well, because there's a new escape room.
I've never seen that.
out right
Yeah.
now in theaters, but it
Yeah.
had escape room-esque things, and there was actually an escape room at the end of the maze and all
Yeah.
that stuff as well. But like the reason why this movie works so well is the writing. In
Yeah.
comparison, like it's apples and fucking oranges, like
Yeah.
the two movies we watched. But then looking into it, the writers of A Quiet Place 1 and 2, they understand characters and drawing out uh, just
Yeah.
like small scenes and making
Yeah.
you terrified because it's the unknown. They know that they have the unknown at their disposal, and
Yeah.
every corner that we turn as an audience in this is were these characters as well. So they play off of that, the horror of they think they're in a normal haunt, and like the unraveling of each thing was so well done. And
Yeah.
the there were so many things done so fucking well in this movie that I understand why the audience scores 100% on this movie as well, because
Yeah.
it's a crowd pleaser for sure. Like it understands that it's a horror movie and ramps up the horrific stuff when it needs to, but it also
Yeah.
leaves you with the characters to develop the characters a little bit more as well. And the writing is so good that each and every single character in this movie I loved. Like going from a movie where I liked one character and fucking hated everyone else. I loved everyone in this movie, like all the protagonists in this movie rather. But then I
Well, I
also
mean,
loved all the like antagonists for like the reveals where you're scared of their like anonymous face, but then
yeah.
the reveal of their actual self is 10 times scarier. I loved
Yeah.
that. It had stuff from like did you ever see the movie Final Girls?
No, I haven't.
We got to do
I got
that on this show
yeah.
because that is such a good movie as well. But then it has that as well. So there's so many. It felt almost like three different genres of horror put into one, perfectly meshed it all together, made good
Yeah.
characters. This was fucking fantastic. I'm so happy that I wanted to check this out too and
Yeah.
had it on the list because
It's
damn,
it's a
this is a good
weird
movie.
it's a weird film because it's a slasher kind of, but it's because it has that chasing element, right, where these like masked characters are chasing characters around, but a lot of it is more of just like something like Cube or something, right, where it's like I still have never seen the movie Cube, unfortunately. You know, you could come after me for that, but you get this environment where it's almost like torture porny, because you have this thing where you don't know what's happening or what's causing this stuff to happen. And it's very, very, it doesn't just throw the whole plot at you right away, right? Like you have these kids and they do a good job of just diving in and setting up these characters. Like you were talking about, like your main character is right away. They show you that this character has a douchebag boyfriend who beats the shit out of her.
The
like
rocky
punched her in the eye.
past, and it makes you really feel for the character, like empathy upon empathy, not just
Yeah.
oh they're here and they're whatever, and I saw them in school, so I can relate to them because I went to school too or something. It gives you actual reason to care for these characters and want them to get out of this because they've already had a shitty life type thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's the douchey character who is the one who drives them there, and who's he is a rideshare guy, and he tries to charge them while they're going. Like, you fucking asshole! Like after he suggested they go there, and you're like, this piece of crap. And he was like, that guy who you introduced to him like at this party, and you're like, he's like throwing like fucking like drinks around the room and shit like that, and you're like, oh, this guy is a fucking douchebag. And that's like just from like the fucking get-go. You're like, as soon as you're introduced to these characters, you're like, man, these guys are they're not like, they're all very like, they're not like the most in-depth characters ever, right? But like they're fleshed out enough, like you said, that you care about them. and we're coming up. I mean, it's getting towards the end of August already, which means we're coming up to like real like Halloween season coming up, and which means like this is something that you could like think about, and it's like a horrifying concept because it's these characters are just going around and they find this flyer to go to this place, and they go into this haunted house, which is seems it. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden a light like a light up sign for a place shows up, like turns on while you're sitting there, I don't think I'm going into that like that haunted house, man. I don't know about you because it's like that seems a little too like it reminds me of things like House of a Thousand Corpses or like even
Yeah.
like your stuff that you're like, okay, this is an off the road attraction which has a shady at best way of getting you to come into it, right? The I think that like the best characters in the movie, the main character, who is what's her? Let me see all these names. It's Katie Stevens plays Harper,
Yep.
and then her roommate is like Laura Alyssa McLean plays Bailey. Those two are the best characters,
Oh
and
yeah,
also
100%.
Nathan is the man that like the third guy, who kind of comes along. He's awesome too, but like the Angela character is played by a Shazi Raja, and she's good, but like she gets less development than the other ones. And
Well, the top three are the only one. Like you're rooting for enough,
yeah,
and they're getting like knocked off one by one, like pretty quickly at the beginning.
yeah,
And but like when they first come into the haunt and they sign the waivers and do all the stuff, and it seems legit, and then it goes to that first setup where the witch character comes out and brands that chick's face, and then it's all set up to look like a ruse, and like it was just kind of pretty gnarly, but like it's still fake.
Yeah.
Like we're just ramping it up, and this is gonna be a crazy experience for you guys. That is so well done because as an audience that holy shit, this is real. Fuck, what are we in for? Like, because that was pretty crazy, like, setup for it. And, like, the characters are still like, oh, wow, yo. Like, those little things were, I don't know, that's what made me love this movie so much more is because it lets you in as an audience before the characters. And when you know something the characters don't, it's always like, oh, and then it kind of catches up, and then again, well, I mean, because you're going into this movie and it's obviously a horror movie. like that it's rated R. It's on Shudder. It's a horror movie, right? Like you sit there and you go, well, either this is starting off pretty gnarly, like you said, this fake burn scare for or this is fucked up, and these guys just don't realize it because they just like, oh, we're silly, innocent, teenagers or early 20s who don't, they're just kind of going with it, right? So, yeah, it goes in, and you get introduced to these characters who they do something else that I like a lot, where they really don't talk for the like early portions of the movie. They're like the workers of this thing, which I think is pretty accurate for like one of these. I don't think I've ever actually gone through a haunted house my entire life. They're huge in Calgary. Like there's a few different companies that like go all out, and there's like full on like haunted, like a whole bunch of different haunted houses in like an area, or like it's a traveling freaking crazy show. Yeah, it's sweet, man. Like haunts are super super massive in Calgary, so like it made me like this movie even more because I've been through so many, and like this is like times 10. Like like they all have that first fucking scare, that skeleton that flies out at you, like the animatronic shit like that. Like they all have stuff like that in it, so that's the like lame scare in this movie, and that's what I love about it because it sets it up like you're actually in a real haunt, and then the rest of the shit is just like ramped up to fucking 11, which is awesome.
Yeah, they slowly introduce things to this movie, right? Like you're talking about it, like they have some of the characters going through and they start like having spiders chucked on them, but they're like plastic spiders, and they've somehow like left a receipt around so they see the receipt for like Party City or something like that. And but then you start seeing like little pieces of it, and you're like, they're like real spiders, like big fucking spiders.
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
like tarantulas, but they're pretty fucking big spiders running around this. And like you have things like you get so far in, and they have the characters get split up, which is another wise decision, because like if you have like all 6 of these, there's like 5 of these, whatever, 5 characters, and you put them all in together, it makes it less scary because you have 5 people together, right? When you have 2 groups and like you cut off and or like remove one from one of the groups, so you're really 2 groups of 2. It makes it so like these characters feel way more isolated and feel way more like alone, which is something that works really well, right? And it gets in, and you get like this. They do a lot with this movie. Like, not all these masks in this like movie are they're pretty simple, right? You have like a clown mask, a devil mask, a witch mask, and like another one's like, it's kind of like a Scream mask, like a little kid
it's
made
like
a Scream mask.
ghosty looking.
Yeah, with like yellow cheeks.
It kind of reminds me of the mask from Scream 2 in like where they're doing the play, or was that Scream 3? Yeah, Scream 2 where they're in
Scream
university
2,
and they
yeah.
those other masks that they wear. It kind of reminds me of that, but like more
like the
white.
Greek,
Yeah,
the Greek tragedy mask.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. You speak of that. I was watching some video on What Culture Horror over the weekend, and they were talking about like 10 things in horror movies that once you saw you wouldn't go back. And they're talking about how the different masks in the original like Scream, and how it like they had to like kind of make a fake mask while they were making waiting for permission to get to use the real Scream mask. And so you'll see it like it's in the opening scenes and some other scenes in the movie, like. I think maybe the scene with the principal in the office where he gets killed is another one. But like, it's funny when you point these things out that like I don't think you're as much like this as me, but like stuff like that in movies like usually flies over my head unless I'm like really really like looking for it, because I'm just so into the movie and my ADHD. Those 2 factors often make me miss things like that. So it's interesting seeing like in like little facts like that all over the place. Right?
I love shit like that though. Like anything that, because I'm obsessed with those movies anyway. So any knowledge like that always makes me just love those movies even more, and makes me want to like rewatch them again. And I've rewatched the entire Scream series several times, and I will again and again. And I can't wait for the 5th one. Just to see what they're gonna do, because like this is the first one like post
in 10 years.
Well, no, but post Wes Craven not being with us anymore as well. So like, I hope it's a love letter as much as it's a reboot and stuff. Even though, like, it doesn't make sense that it's a reboot with the same fucking characters. So I don't understand that part of it either.
It's the same as fucking Halloween 2018, dude. They're doing this simple thing where they're rebooting this movie. It's like just like Candyman. The new Candyman's coming out, and it's called just Candyman. Halloween, Scream, all those things. And so you're sitting there going, yeah, this is just kind of what we're doing now. And because you know what happens in Hollywood, dude, one of these companies gets away with something and successful with something, and we're at how many times this has happened now?
So this is another origin story of Scream again?
And no, it's like a continuation. It's a sequel, but they're like rebooting. Like it's a new. From what I've gathered, it's a reboot with new characters. Like the other old characters will be in it, but they're not.
They're not
primary.
Oh, okay. So it's like Ghostbusters, like because at the end of the trailer he says we're closed, which I fucking love, and I think this is they're doing it right this time around. I hope. I think the trailer looks great. I've heard other people aren't excited. I'm super excited. That's one of my franchises. Like when I was a kid, it's freaking Ghostbusters. It looks like it's done right. It's like the torch has been passed down to his son, who is an amazing filmmaker and was on set as a kid for the originals, so he was the first person to see Ghostbusters outside of the actual Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it's in the right hands this time, and it was filmed like right down the street from my house. So it, you know, just being in Calgary, knowing that all these characters and the franchise is in town filming, the buzz was huge in Calgary. So like, it's like electrifying my love for movies and Ghostbusters. Fuck, come on. So yeah, Ghostface in this was awesome, but 10 times scarier when that ghost face comes off, because that was a like super gnarly face. Holy shit.
I like, one of the things I really do like about this movie is that they leave you with questions, right? They don't answer every question, which is cool, because they like, you later on in the movie, like towards like the third act, you start figuring out that these guys' faces are all kinds of intentionally fucked up, right? Like they put like piercings, but they have like prosthetics under their skin like tattoos on their faces, and the clown looks like his like nose is like he pulled the skin off the end of it.
Oh, and
go,
like,
what the fuck is
there's like burning around to scar up his face like the clown makeup, like essentially like what they did in The Dark Knight with the cheeks and stuff, right? But all over his fucking face.
Yeah, and then you don't ever get an explanation besides there's a character that goes like, who looks human still, and he goes, I didn't know they were gonna start killing people, and
they just paid me to lure kids here. That's it.
Well, he says that he goes they said if I killed someone I would get my face. So it's like it's like a initiation, like a gang initiation, right? Where like again, this is why so if you've never seen Hell House, the concept of Hell House is like, it's more like a bigger scale version of this, kind of, where these kids are going to a Universal like Halloween Horror Nights kind of thing, right? Where they're like, it's a big old amusement park with a whole bunch of houses like this, and a guy is stalking people and killing them, and he gets away with it because no one knows he's doing it. It's the same kind of thing, but it's like a bigger scale than this, and it's got that same kind of feel where it's like, it's got that idea where like, hey, we're like, hey, if you wanted to kill someone like in a big old setting like this would be the perfect place to do it, right? Because there's all this gore and horror and all this shit everywhere, and you go, oh, this would be perfect for this, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it has that movie. Haunt is a better movie, but I think that movie is a lot of fun also and is worth watching. It's not really this kind of podcast kind of thing, but that movie's fun and like a good time. And so it has a lot of the same vibes, but what I really, really like with this is that, they have this thing where they leave you like enough wandering, and it like, because that's one of the things that you have to appreciate in horror movies, when they don't teach you everything, they don't tell you everything, and they leave things out there to go, well, I wonder what this is happening. It's like, it's why the original Michael Myers is so fucking horrifying, because you have no idea why he's doing anything, right? He's the shape. He just runs around killing people, right? You don't have any idea why they're doing it, why someone's running around killing people. And you don't know what these guys either. And it's always movies, when they fucking, at least franchise, when they try to explain things too much, like Jason Goes to Hell,
but that's where that's where the good writing comes in. Like, they know what they have, and that's what they did so right in A Quiet Place 1 and 2. It was stuff happened in the first one, but we came into the story when we were supposed to, and they left out and didn't explain stuff because they're good fucking writers, and they made it bite-sized, and like, this just goes to show they understand the horror genre so well. I can't wait to see what this team, and they directed this one as well, so like, I can't wait to see what this team does in horror moving forward. I have like a whole new respect for these guys. And I didn't even know they were a part of this until we started watching it. I'm like, fuck, how did this go under my radar? And the reason this even got put onto my radar is because someone I don't even know said, man, this is such an underrated fucking movie. Watch it now. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this movie? So I'm happy that we are here talking about it, because if someone else out there listening to this right now is in the same boat as me and doesn't know that this film exists, fucking watch this film. Seriously.
Yeah. It's again, it's why Shudder is so good, man, because they curate these movies. And like we talked about, like there are films like Skull wasn't great. The one we watched that was Brazilian, right? But it was entertaining at least, and it was like it was a ride. And this is the Shutters never had a movie that they've like a Shudder exclusive of like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And that means a lot. The when this movie really gets kicked in, right? Like they have the one character disappears. The what's her name? It's Shaz. It's Angela gets like disappears in these. They like the characters are set through these weird hallways, right? Some of the characters have to like crawl through an air duct, but and then one of them just never like reappears, like gets lost in this what they think is a maze or something like that. So like they like you're talking about, they're picking characters off. And then this is like actually probably one of the freakier parts of the whole movie where they have to start putting their arms into the like the wall to like figure out how to get through. Man, that shit fucking
I love the aesthetic of that though. Like the light wall with like X-rays.
The X-rays.
Yeah. Looks so fucking cool. Just aesthetically. And again, I got to bring it up. The lighting in this was fantastic. The blocking in it was fantastic. Like just there's so many things done so well, and just like it was just an easy like watch. So easy to watch.
Yep. Yeah, it's that when you have a horror movie that it's you go back and let's point out one of my least favorite horror movies of all time in Alien versus Predator Resurrection, where it is the darkest, hardest to watch movie I've ever seen. One of them, right?
Yeah.
And when you can't see things, it's like it makes the fucking experience miserable. I mean, miserable. And so you're sitting there going, well, I mean, we have a movie where
I felt that way in Black Panther too. Like there was a whole bunch of fight scenes in a cave, and I don't know if they didn't have the projector turned up enough, but I was just like, I can't really like see what's going on.
I think a lot of that has to do with also you start going into weird territory with PG-13 action movies where you're like, you can't. I remember back in the day. I think it was like Clive Owen's King Arthur movie that came out a long time ago, 20, 25 years ago.
They should have just stopped there. Like all the other, especially the newest King Arthur, no one asked for it. And then no one went and saw it either. So like it just went to show, like just stop making them. But no one cares about King Arthur anymore.
That's that stuff where you have that like that amount of action where like either you get dark action scenes or you one of my the thing that will drive me personally crazier than almost anything in a movie besides being dark, when you have action scenes or fight scenes and you're cutting every like 0.2 of a second, like what those Resident Evil movies turned into in the end were just way too many fucking cuts. It just is a jarring experience, right? Yes. It's just so jarring. And that's what I fucking hate when they do that kind of stuff. And this movie doesn't do that, and it's so impressive. Like you keep talking about, because you're in a like drab, dark environment, and you're doing so well to maintain that drab, dark environment that you could still see everything in, right? So like you said, it's impressive.
That lit it super well. But like even in that scene right there, you go to the other characters that aren't right next to this huge, bright, amazing looking fucking, like, because light makes everything look so much better. As you like, I have an insane setup in my basement right now. He's looking at all the blue lights behind me and stuff, but they did that in this movie too. In that scene, behind the other characters, the girls, there was like some orange light playing off of the blue light coming in and doing the color wheel thing, and I'm just like, I love it. It's so aesthetically pleasing. But in the other movie, the lighting wasn't. I like there to be other lights in the scene that I don't know what I'm losing my words right
that
now.
are that maintain their natural lighting for the setting, right? Like you're trying to talk about like you have ways to light the scene without it being like spotlights like going on things, right? You have
Yeah.
things like natural lighting, things like the environment and things like that, the things that make it so like you get that feeling what you're talking about. You're getting the oh, this is natural and not just like a movie set, right?
Yeah.
And then, which makes it way more terrifying, especially in something like this, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, you can't see anything, but you can see everything because that's how it was set up. Like the darkest scene of this movie is towards the end where she's going through that like room with all the blades and shit, and where she steps on the nails and all that stuff.
Lighting.
Yeah.
Like when it's motivated by something in the scene. So then you can add more light to it, and it's actually motivated by something that is actually in the scene as well. So like there was no motivated lighting in that other movie. There was just, oh, we need more light on their face. Spotlight, harsh shadow behind them. And I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah. But like I said, the only thing that like really not bothered me, but like it was like, like is they use CG blood in this movie, and like the first instance of it is really where you have the Bailey character sticks her arm, is like looking for, like she loses Harper's mom's ring through one of these holes because it's part of her Halloween costume, and like she gets her arm cut. And like as she pulls it out, she's like, and you don't see anything, and then you see these CG cuts pop down her arm, and I'm like, ugh. And they did it really quick, right? It wasn't a long, but I'm like, and then they had her covered up for the rest of the time, so you didn't ever see it again. They had to have, like, I don't know why they didn't do something practical for that. Like they probably because they wanted that, like, it's. I don't know how I feel about that, and like that happens in movies a lot. I think of it like things like Equilibrium, or like Underworld, where she cuts off the lead vampire's face at the end of Underworld, and like he's just sitting there, and then like 30 seconds later his face slides off, kind of thing. Like, it's you know
the
what I'm talking
Resident Evil type thing where the cube comes, and then I love that. Like that was like done right, where the eye leaks and. It was, you know what I'm talking about. And then like his whole body slides down and stuff. Like that was the first instance of that being done right. And every other instance pretty much after that was trying to do it and didn't succeed because Resident Evil did it best and everyone else was just copying it.
Yeah. And that's like the only thing, like the rest of the kills in this movie are pretty like, or gore and stuff is pretty
loved it.
Good.
Like especially the hammer scene, like holy shit. Like that was gnarly.
Yeah, that is gnarly as fuck. You're like, what the fuck? And it's just
they do it, but then they come back, and then the gag is obviously set up. But I didn't know that they were gonna go that gnar with the gag, and also the devil gets a really good like fork to the face to that one chick too, which
the
is
key. That like, that one is
like that one was awesome.
That one looked like it was probably CG also, because like when you pulled off that's the one thing I noticed with that scene. He fucking it hits her with the pitchfork.
Yeah,
it's a pitchfork, and like it looks goes through her cheek really gnarly looking, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then like he pulls it out, and there's nothing on the pitchfork looks like really, really clean, and it just that kind of was like.
Oh, I didn't notice that because I was too busy looking at how like gnarly the chick's face was after, because like it moved her eye and like bulged it and stuff. I thought they did a really good job of it, like going in and like distorting her face, because I was like, oh my god, like because again, like I didn't know that this movie was gonna turn it up to 11 like they did, and I loved that they did, because it's when it comes to movies like this, it's that like it's not torture porn, but it's like it's like a porn in where that's the the lead up to the eventual kill is what you're kind of waiting for in these ones. So like
it's kind of like Home Alone, but like with violent, like more violence, because it's like traps or Saw or something like that, right? You're getting these things happening, and you're like mixed with a slasher movie. Like I said, you can really call this a slasher movie,
Oh
just
yeah.
with the weird things going on to it.
Oh, and the
Uh,
sledgehammer actually, now that I think back, like it
the sledgehammer.
this movie does a really good job also of like, cuz in movies we know as an audience that these guys are pretty fucked, but they do
Yeah,
a really good job of giving those beacons of hope for you
yeah,
as an audience, but also for the characters, and like for you to
yeah,
almost believe it, that they might actually have hope to get out of this thing alive. And they do it
yeah,
in little pockets here and here so well. And again, that just goes down to knowing what you're doing, being self-aware of the horror genre and the tropes that you have at your disposal. And they use them all. I felt like they had like
yeah,
these salt and pepper shakers of like
yeah.
horror tropes from like every different genre of horror. Just like, ooh, we can use that trope, we can use this trope, now we can use this trope. But
Yeah.
like it felt like, oh, nice little like seasoning.
Yeah, and they did things like they fucked with you with those
Yeah,
tropes too.
exactly.
Like they have the worker who is like trying to help them,
Yes,
and
loved
who
it.
isn't really trying to help,
Loved it.
and then they have the one that actually is trying to help
Yes.
them, and you're like, and it's like, so they like, you don't like believe the guy until he pulls his mask off and he doesn't look like a fucking like a lunatic like the rest of them. Man, it's so they do those things and you're just like, oh, okay, and they they also they fuck with these characters really well, because they make them go back and like retrace their steps and like do everything you wouldn't want to do to get out of this place, just because they're fucking with their heads so badly. And like the when they're like trying to get out and they open that one door and it's just a brick wall because it said like emergency exit, and you're just like,
That's when you know
oh
that guy
man.
is just fucking with them, because he lets them go all the way to the exit that they
Yeah,
saw, and then go, "Oh yeah, I didn't think there was an exit there." And then they're all like, "Wait a second, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I
yeah,
thought you were helping us." Like, uh-oh.
yeah. Yeah, and then they just start throwing in clips of the other workers in the haunted house who are doing things like throwing their cell phones into
Mhm.
microwaves, like to do shit, and which is fucking awesome, because it's like they're just, these guys obviously have just like done this shit. That's kind of like what I got gathered from this, right? Like
This
these
isn't the
motherfuckers have
first
been,
time, and this
yeah,
isn't the
yeah,
first Halloween, and this isn't the, like, they are fucking pros at this by this point.
yeah. Well, it's there's like, you see what, four characters like with fucked up faces, right? Like including the female character who doesn't have like much like whatever, but you go, how long have they been doing this? Because at the one point, I think the only like really the only lines the female like antagonist has is she's like, oh, you've made it further than anyone before you or something like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh yeah. So they've been stuck around here doing this like for, because this happens all on Halloween, right? And so like Halloween haunted houses, you're like doing like these are most of October. These motherfuckers could have been killing bunches of people every night, and then like not anyone that would ever know it, like because this place is in the middle of nowhere. They take their cell phones, but like the only thing that's a little bit unbelievable with that would be like I wonder how like you would have cell phones that got pinged up
Yeah, yeah.
until like somewhere around that to like figure out that they had been in that area, and then
There's
probably I don't
definitely a whole loophole here and there with,
yeah
but again, with it
it's
not being explained whatsoever, they could have just set
yeah
this up. They could be setting it up in different areas every year,
yeah
blah blah blah.
yeah oh
Like
yeah
we could,
I that's
yeah,
yeah I was assuming that they set it up in different areas every year. It's why, I mean, we've seen how many horror movies even on this podcast alone where they go back to the 80s, because cell phones like just
yeah,
shit on so many like things in horror movies. They just go, it's like that fucking it's like plot armor in a video game or a movie or something. Like you're like, oh, this just gets you out of whatever situation you need to be because it's a cell phone. So like it's why more and more movies go back and use that era, because the 80s was like the golden era of horror, but like two,
It's
you don't have
pre-cell
to.
phones and that, yeah,
Yep,
it
exactly.
really, especially all the movies that came out in the 80s, if there was cell phones, none of them would exist.
Yep, yep. It would be like, hey, Jason Voorhees, oh, like maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, but like
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees is running around like killing everyone. And that's why like I feel like all the fan made like Jason Voorhees movies, Friday the 13th movies are always like, oh, there's no reception on it. Like they always have to add lines like that or do that shit because it like it just like
Isn't
cell
there
phones
like a
fucking.
crazy good one called like Jason Lives or something? Or I don't remember.
I was seeing clips or something, but I don't know, recently. I just watched Never Hike in the Snow, which was pretty decent. It was they had Tommy Jarvis in it again, which like he had been in the other one, Never Hike Alone, and I think this was a prequel, which is why that all was like that. But yeah, but there's a lot of them, man. You go look on YouTube for fan made horror movies, like for Friday the 13th and Halloween are the ones I see a lot of, and I don't know about the other ones. I assume there's probably like Texas Chainsaw ones and also maybe even Nightmare, but I don't know. I don't. Nightmare seems like a harder one to do as a fan made fan film, right? Like
Oh yeah.
compared to the other ones because it's not set in the real world. I so when they
Jason
actually start,
Rising, that's the one.
there's a lot of them, man. There's a whole ton. There's so many. Yeah. And so yeah,
It
it's
looks
doesn't surprise.
fucking gnarly though. Like it looks really
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
I gotta watch it.
I I think with those movies, what impresses me is when they actually get an actor to play Jason in them that is big, like is a
Yes.
big motherfucker. Because I think Jason's a character is the same thing with Michael. You need a guy that's like, I think 6'3" or 6'4" is probably the starting area of what I would like with these motherfuckers. Just because you need imposing, right? And like, it's
You
not
need them to take
always.
up a lot of space besides your other characters and be able to just
Yeah.
make them look really freaking small and like
Yep.
yeah, just like
Inconceivably small.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like these characters all get like start like getting picked off. Like Angela, who got lost earlier, they drag her out in front of all these guys, and then they take the poker from earlier, and they don't burn her though. They just fucking ram this fucking thing through her forehead, and then they like exit out, and you're like, wow, that went from like, oh, we're gonna burn this woman's cheek to just like impaling her forehead with this thing, which is again,
It's
I think that,
ramped
like,
up.
yeah, well, that is too, but they also do a good thing where they don't. I feel like they do a better job when it goes on, like, of not showing things, but also just implying things. Because the special effects, like I talked about, the CG stuff, I don't like, and
Yeah, yeah.
but like they did a good job of avoiding it most of the rest of this movie. So you have all these characters are trying to get out, and they get led around and jerked off by the guy with the ghost mask.
Jerked off.
Yeah. And what I like is he that character does such a good job of, he separates them even more, right? He gets the douchey guy, the human centipede, and he cuts him off, and like he that guy gets out of the place, but like they'd been going, oh, you want to see my face? And like they kept telling him they wanted to see his face because they had like, this is all fucked up. And he finally shows them his face, but you don't. His face looked like, probably, I don't know. His face seemed like he had been chewed off by like a zombie, like, right? Like
The
it
white,
was very like
almost, I don't know. It was so creepy.
I wonder. You know what it seemed to me like is that guy was the newest of them, because like they hadn't gone in and done like tattoos and piercings on top of it. Like they were still working on this guy's face.
Yeah.
Like it was, oh, okay, this guy's face is going to be, it takes time because obviously you're gonna cut parts of people's faces off and shit. There's gonna be a healing process, right? Yeah, and what I like is they that guy gets out and he's like, what's going on? And then like they go back. They don't show you do it, but they show him like with the hammer in his head, like the guy had like surprised him and like hit him in the head and killed him with a hammer. And then what you talked about, the gnarly fucking where you would usually like think about something like this, like with a hammer, where you put the claw part of the hammer in the lower jaw, and then like rip the lower jaw off.
Yeah.
But they stick it the other way and then like
Ripped his face off.
Yeah.
Like
you took his face off. And they just ripped. That was probably the gnarliest thing in this whole movie.
That's one of those
yeah,
like moments.
I did not expect that to
so
happen.
good though. Holy shit. I love when movies surprise me. Like full on, I was surprised. Didn't see that coming and was pleasantly surprised that it was so well done as well. Because that was not a CG effect. That was a gag, practical face thing done so freaking well. I loved it.
Yeah. They do a good job of like using camera angles and like cuts to make it so it looks like the same thing, but it's it's not because obviously you're not ripping a dude's face off.
Yeah.
But they go off and do the that, and then there's Bailey gets like disappears also at some point, and Nathan, I really like what Nathan does because he finds like the killer guy's break room, and he finds their cell phones, and he finds Harper's cell phone and sends their location to her shitty boyfriend. And this is one of my favorite things in the movie because they set up this thing where you're like, oh, this motherfucker is a piece of shit, and then they set it up so it's like, okay, he's a piece of shit, huh? So we're gonna set this up so that he gets the location and he shows up, and they just keep going, okay, he's getting closer, and he wanders in and he gets fucked up. This dude, this is where you're talking about the sledgehammer. He gets the gag that
they set up in the very first scene of the movie. The very first shot of the movie, they set up this tripwire that you don't know what it's to or why it's happening or anything. There's no explanation. And then this is the part where you get to see what that tripwire does. And it was awesome.
It like triggers like a air pressure gun that shoots this giant like
screw
bolts into into this guy's neck. And then he smashes his hand. No, he doesn't smash his hand.
He drops a big cinder block on his hand.
Oh yeah, which is just brutal, man. Like this is what I really like about this movie, when they do that, where they just leave enough of that to like you're like because they do that, and then they the clown fucking slams his head with the sledgehammer, and you're like and it's not very. I think there's some CG in there too, but like they don't linger on it, which I like. You just let it like kind of like just kind of picture what happened and how bad this dude's face got fucked up by this, because he swings a fucking sledgehammer full fucking like power into this guy's fucking face, and you just go, oh, okay, so this guy's face is just fucked up. So then there's and you kind of, it's one of those kills where you like, you didn't like the motherfucker anyways because he was a fucking like beats his girlfriend and shit, so you kind of
but
like,
it's funny how they like put it on its head, because like you hate him the entire movie, but then he's that one extra beacon of hope, like the main beacon of hope, because he's an outsider coming in to essentially save her to then beat her because she went somewhere without him or something like that. So it's not going to end well for her anyways. So it's like this weird bittersweet beacon of hope. But that was like, I don't know, it was just like a smart decision by the writers to use that character as the one coming back in. It's just again,
it all sets up the what's gonna happen, because you have Harper running around, and Harper, like, Nathan gets pulled off, like, and you don't know where he's at, and Harper's really going through some shit, man. She's she's going and she's getting chased. She goes into this room and like fucking like glue traps for
Oh
like
my
rats and
god.
mice and shit, and is like pulling her hands off, like the skin of her hands off, which is gnarly.
That was such a
Which
good
also,
practical effect too. Like
yeah,
it looked so fucking gnarly. But then in the very next scene, she's just like opening the door and letting her hand rest on the door. I was like, come on. She would be like
yeah,
doing it with her fingers because that looked so gnarly. It would hurt
yeah,
forever. And the
yeah,
very next shot, she's just like casually opening a door. I was like,
yeah,
ah.
yeah. And they play that back off later on, which is dope. But she ends up Harper ends up in this room, which is like the end of the maze or whatever. And
That's like
they,
a
they think
nitpick.
it's a
My only
yeah.
nitpick.
No, it's fine. Well, they do an interesting thing, and it's like I don't know if it was necessary, but they have this background of this Harper character where her dad beat the shit out of her
Mom,
mom,
yeah.
and you go like you get these flashbacks of her crawling under the bed because that's kind of like what she needs to do to like get out of this room, and she crawls under and she's having these flashbacks of when her dad beat the shit out of her mom. I think he killed her. I they don't really explain it like what happened, which is also a good thing. Like you kind of are just kind of guessing because it's just these flashbacks you get where his mom got hit by her dad. And this is where you have another like you have a very Saw like scene because like finds this key, gets out of this room, and this guy is coming after her, and like it's this there's a chainsaw wielding guy that he's in the movie but doesn't do all that much. He's just the chainsaw guy.
Yeah.
Like he's like the guy in every haunted house where that has a chainsaw without the blade on it, right?
Yeah.
Or it's just like basically a engine on this thing going rum, 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 because again chainsaws are horrifying, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is really the reason here, right?
Yep.
And she ends up like taking this motherfucker out with a shotgun that they have like this, and this is what I was talking about with the like set to go off when the door opened, but that wasn't all. It just keeps going off, and he attacks her, and then what does she do? She hits him with she pushes his head up into the shotgun range, but like she fucks him. She fucks up a lot of dudes in this movie. I mean, like,
But she's the final girl, man. Like
yeah,
it's I saw the movie flip flop to like knowing that it's the unknown and playing off of that to now we know a lot more. Now we've seen the other side of the antagonists and their plots and behind the scenes and blah blah blah, and now it's all over the place. And then it's switched to a final girl movie instead, where now she's like, fuck you, I've had enough, now I'm gonna turn it up to 11 and myself on you, and you're gonna fucking wish you never met me. And I love when the female character gets that's one of the tropes again, and I love that trope so much, and they did such a good job with it, and she was perfect, like perfect.
It's like she's not like You're Next, where she's like that like big of a badass, like where she's like setting traps and shit like that. But like, I'm wrong. She does set traps.
She does.
Come
on.
But like
she home alones her own house.
Yep. But she is pretty much a badass. And she ends up fighting the devil guy, and she fucking pokes him in the eye with her the key, which is gnarly. Also, they do a pretty good practical effect there. Like when they used practical effects and didn't use practical effects in this movie, it was a little odd to me. But I wonder if like things didn't look good and they went back and shot it, like reshot it and added CGI. That's what I'm curious about. I bet you that's what happened. But
I don't know. I feel like overall it was all just such a good movie that those little downfalls for like, the nitpickiness that we're doing, really, because it's such a good movie that we're so hyper focusing on the little tiny things that they didn't do 100% because this is such a good fucking movie. Right?
Yeah. I don't want you to I don't want anyone listening to this think I'm pissed off about it. I'm just pointing out because I've talked about it plenty of times on this podcast, but practical effects are my fucking favorite. And
Oh
when you
yeah.
don't do practical effects and CG stuff, I'm very picky with it, and like I can point that shit out and not be mad about it, and that's kind of what I'm doing in this movie. How does she kill the devil now? She hits him in the eye with the key, and then what does she hit him with? She gets him with how does she finish him off?
I thought he was
forget
the
how
one.
she finishes him.
That was the guy with the. He comes to get her again, and she pushes him up, and he gets shot by the shotgun.
Wasn't that the chainsaw dude?
No, the chainsaw dude is the guy who gets batted in the face by the guy with the bat.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, because he came and followed them at the end, and then shot the dude in the stomach, and then he switched his chainsaw for a gun at one point.
Yeah, and he gets shot in the lung, I think is kind of where he got shot. It looked like I don't really see, but
he did not care that guy had a gun pointed at him.
Yeah,
he was just like,
he's
fuck it, I'm going up to him with my trusty bat.
Yeah, he was a college baseball player, and so he just fucking whacks this motherfucker in the head with a hammer, and so they go out. Him and Nathan and Harper get out, and they crawl over the fence, and they find the boyfriend's truck. And they get out, and they both they run into the ambulances, the police cars, and they're she wakes up in the hospital, and you start getting weird flashbacks of her childhood, right? And his dad beating his mom, and then before, but then she goes home and opens up, knocks on the door, and it's her mom opens it. So that's why I thought her mom was actually dead, but they don't really explain it, right?
See, what I thought was she's obviously following in her mom's footsteps and has the abusive boyfriend, and probably didn't like the situation, got away from it, and probably hasn't talked to either one of her parents for a long time. And then because of this horrific experience that she was just went through, she was like, now I don't have to deal with being beaten, because I've now risen up, and now she's going to see her mom to probably be like, hey, you can too.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. No, because this is why I don't think of that, because with the last scene where after she wakes up in the hospital, that house is pretty fucking empty. What I think happened
maybe
is
her mom is dead, and that was
her dad,
she was sleeping and went and hugged her mom, because now she's overcome it.
Yeah, and the dad is in jail for killing her, and she's
I like that one better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
actually, I forgot that happened in the dream sequence type thing, because then she woke up after that, and she just woke up. She's so bandaged up, and then the nurse comes up and is like, "Here's your release form." It's like, what? You're not gonna leave her there, because it was a gunshot. She got shot. And the rest are really, if there's a shot, you're going to be questioned. There's going to be cops there. There's going to, the whole release form thing was just to send it back to the release form they signed, which, it was clean. But again, because of the circumstances, that was a very big loophole that was kind of lazy.
I do wonder though, because when they show the cops, the place gets set on fire, that everything happened by one of the bad guys, and they as they're driving away in the truck, they run into a cop car, and I wonder if they were enough that they told them everything there, and that was why that they didn't have to do all that shit. I'm not sure, but Nathan was fucking knocked out still, because he got shot in the lung or wherever he got shot. This is the only part that I don't like, that was a little odd to me. So they had this place burned down, but the one guy that was left took their release forms for some reason, and how did he know the one that was, I guess maybe because they're I don't know if they would have had their wallets or what, but he knows who was still alive for some reason, and
he
goes
knows their
back.
names.
I know, but only because of whatever licenses or whatever.
She said her name, remember? Oh, I'm Sam. Can you help
Oh
me,
yeah,
Rob? Or whatever the
yeah,
guy's name was. Wasn't it
yeah,
Rob?
something like that. But it was just a little
Maybe it was
weird because then
Rod.
it was not me. I'm innocent. I am innocent. But yeah,
I
then like
did
it
like
goes
that
back to
because then it leaves you with this like high five moment to the
yeah,
audience at the end, and
yeah,
the final girl fucking like, yeah, like it's like an 80s throwback fucking yeah
yeah.
like
Well,
moment.
it's
So
yeah, it's the like this guy is a predator and he underestimates his prey and becomes the prey himself. He goes and breaks into her house and she puts that glue shit on the floor again. And he puts his hand through a nails or whatever, like she had put her foot through the nail earlier, and then she blows his head off with a shotgun, and then we get credits.
see, we got to
Yeah, it,
do the final girls on this show because it's like Last Action Hero meets
yeah,
slasher films, which it is so fucking such a fun movie. And
yeah.
I also
That
want to
movie's
see The Last
PG-13
Matinee
though.
because it's a foreign movie as well. It's a Spanish film. So, and it's any movie that's set in movie theaters or has anything to do with movies and horror and filmmaking type stuff. It
Yeah.
that's where I just get big boners, man. Like huge boners that need to be watched.
Okay, I'm gonna time to chop it off, Josh.
Yeah,
You're
we got
getting
to.
erections, and I'm gonna chop it off with this samurai sword that I'm holding here, that I'm not really holding. Um, yeah. So like this movie is tons of fun. It is really like this is an audience pleaser. Like you were talking about it having like 100% fan
Oh,
score because this movie is just like it's just pure, kind of like I don't know. I think of things like when I see this stuff like this, I think of things like I don't know of like lately stuff like I kind of think of like uh what is it that movie called with Samara Weaving Ready or Not, kind
yeah.
of stuff like that. It's where like you characters assume that someone is uh weak and a victim and they're not. And You're Next, like I mentioned, and fuck it, but
Your
like
Next
that's the kind of stuff
is
that I
was one of those movies that surprised the hell out of me too, because I was just like, oh, I didn't really know what to expect. And again,
yeah
that's one of those movies that just high fives you like crazy because it's a final girl movie, and
yeah
it just is so satisfying because again, it plays on that trope that the whole audience is underestimating because the main victim is just this female and females can't
yeah
whoa, and then it's like fuck you, yeah they can, boom boom,
yeah.
like oh I love it
Yeah.
so much.
That's that's why that I always laugh at like how people used to like try to say that like horror in the 80s especially was just like exploitation, but like man, that shit was like female empowerment. Like it was these strong female characters who last in these situations when dumb horny dudes couldn't, like and stupid people just got out, but this one strong smart woman was like, nah, I'm gonna fuck you guys, you can't you can't do this to me. And it's what happens, right? Like it's why like especially the first couple Friday the 13th, like where it's like they the strong women survive and then they like with like quick thinking, like what do you call her, number two putting on Jason's mom's sweater, that kind of stuff where it's like you do stuff that you maybe don't want to do, but you do because it's a smart thing and you survive because of it, right? And that's like this girl is like going through and like stepping on nails and like barely escaping and get the shit kicked out of her, but she's doing what she needs to do to survive. And that's really what like this is like
So
what do you do
good.
to survive in these situations, right?
But then
And
she
this
brings
yeah
it back too. Everything that she obviously overly hated about her experience in the maze, she then puts
yeah
in her own house because she knows that guy's probably going to come to her house because she put her fucking address on the release
yeah
form. So then she sets up the glue trap right when you come in, to the nail trap, to a shotgun, to the
Yep.
face trap. Boom.
Yep.
Done.
Yeah. And they do a really good job of that where like the guy looks up to like her mantle and there's like the shotgun like a holder or whatever and
It's
and
not
it's like
there.
not there. And what does she say? She says she has a good line there at the end when she shoots him, and it's like, yes! It's just like that fist pumping moment, like
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah, man. This movie is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's what like I love about horror, and I know the same thing with you. And the thing that I like the CG stuff is, it bothers me a little bit, but not really. It's like the thing where like it's like when an ice cream sundae the cherry falls off, and it's just like, oh, that sucks. But we still get the ice cream sundae with everything else, like just not the cherry being there, which is like. It's like you get a 99 out of 100 instead of 100, right? Like, but it's so hard to make a perfect movie, man. There's not a lot of perfect movies, and really,
Have you seen
it's
Hackers?
probably yes, yes. I love Hackers, but Hackers is not a perfect movie, Josh. I hate to tell you that. I hate to tell you that. Just like The Room is not a perfect movie. I love The Room, but it is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the words. So yeah, if you have Shudder, go watch this shit. It's fucking dope, especially as we're getting into Halloween season.
Now
If
I
you've
gotta
not
see
seen it,
Hell
go.
House because you keep bringing that up, and the more I look into that, it does look very similar.
Dude, Hell House is dope, man. The first one especially is fucking creepy as fuck. It's very Hell House is very like, it's got the things where found footage
Okay.
stuff, but like I would say like if like stuff like Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch are like, that A tier kind of thing. I think Hell House is a very respectable high B tier.
Okay.
For like it's up there. I've never seen any of the sequels. I think I started the second one but never watched it. But maybe we do that around like, Halloween time, because that's very, again, it's a haunted house kind of thing that happens. But that is some fucked up shit in that movie,
I'm
man.
so
It really
excited.
does.
We should start. I don't know, because like October is just not long enough. I just feel like,
Dude, I mean,
September should be the start of like Halloween shit.
that's cool with me. Next week is, I don't know when we're recording next week, because we've been recording on Tuesdays. Next Tuesday is my birthday. I'm an old man next week. But I'll let you know for sure. But
What do
I'm gonna
you
be 38?
What do you have
I'm an old
planned?
man.
Anything
I
special?
don't have anything planned. No, I have nothing planned. I'm trying to figure that out now. I'm really bad at planning things, if we're honest. Like,
Yeah, same.
I could get shit going, but here we go.
I think my birthday is actually on Canadian Thanksgiving this year.
Nice, very nice. So you're gonna go gobble gobble, motherfucker. Just
Gobble
like,
gobble, motherfucker.
gobble gobble, motherfucker. Oh man, I love that movie. I love that movie so much. I'm gonna fucking
It
watch
is.
that at Thanksgiving time. I fucking love it. I love Thanksgiving. So do you want to do then? Like, do you want to do the last matinee then next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. So yes, homework. I think, but the last matinee will come out. I think it comes out on Tuesday. So you'll have a couple days, but whatever. We just talk fun about movies, anyways. So
What do you mean it comes out on Tuesday?
like the streaming releases on Tuesday, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. So
Yeah, I have
Okay,
another
dude.
movie that I don't understand. Like, this movie Habit looks pretty cool too, but that's not a horror movie.
what is? I don't know what that one is.
I don't know.
Okay, man. Well, I love your face, Josh. I need to go to bed because I'm tired. But yes, we'll do the 2020 Spanish movie, Last Matinee. We gotta get back to some finish off. Like, do a couple more Japanese movies at some point in the near future. I kind of want to like do Tokyo Gore Police, and I also
That's a
think
fun one.
because
That's more like
Yeah.
a comedy to me, though. Like, I guess it is.
Yeah.
I just remember laughing throughout the entire movie just because of the sheer amount of blood in it. But
yeah, I think that I would like to hit that, but like I would like to do one of the like stereotypical Japanese ghost movies, like either like Ringu or
I would love to. Because I loved The Ring, and I still haven't seen Ringu. So I'm totally
let's go
down.
do that during our September 2 months of horror then.
2 months of
Yeah.
horror. It's coined here
Yeah.
first. Probably
2 months of
not.
horror.
But
I mean, every month is horror for us, Josh. Let's be real.
no, two
Also,
months of Halloween fun times.
Yep. Okay, buddy. Next week then. The Last Matinee. I will see you later, you sexy fuck. So I love you, and we love you all. So we'll see everyone next week. And
Bye.